Bueno, hola, hola. ¿Estamos como para arrancar?
Hello, everyone. Are we all ready to get started?
Bien. No sé si estoy yo saliendo, cómo estamos. Discúlpenme, no soy tan millennial. Estoy poniendo un poquito, estoy acomodando acá el seteo de mi monitor. Bien, bienvenidos
Welcome
a esta que es una de las
to
primeras actividades formales
this,
que
one of the
hacemos
first
aquí
formal activities
en
of
este encuentro tan especial
BIM,
de
this very
inversiones y
special
talentos.
edition of the
Estamos incorporando
biennial
algo que
of the
quizás
moving image. We're
empezamos a hacer
incorporating something we already wanted to do,
quizás
and
a
that
propósito
maybe in the
próximamente
future
en
will
una reunión
become a
en una de las
tradition
ediciones de la BIM,
in future
un encuentro
editions of
de
BIM,
laboratorios con
a
un
lab
fuerte
meeting
foco en lo que
with a
son
strong
las
focus
industrias en
on
Latinoamérica,
Latin American
considerando
labs,
lo que es las
considering
singularidades
what
de
singularities
llevar adelante este tipo
they have
de
for
proyectos en
these
las
types of
condiciones que
projects under
cada
the
y en cada
special
uno de nuestros
conditions
países, ¿no?
each of our countries
Que es
have,
fundamentalmente
basically
una cuestión de
from a
periferia y
peripheral
condiciones económicas
conception and the
que
economic
muchas veces en el
conditions
mercado tienen que ver
and market conditions
con
that
ser
many
parte,
times
¿no?
have to do
de
with
lo más
being part of
adelantado que
the
nosotros.
more
Eh,
forgotten places in the
la
world.
Bienal de la Imagen en Movimiento, desde el
Our
comienzo y siempre, ese ha sido
beam,
nuestro eje.
from the beginning to end,
Prestamos especial atención
we
a lo que es la creación en
focus
diferentes soportes,
on creation of
audio,
different supports, audiovisual
lo
supports,
digital, lo
digital,
electrónico, analógico, lo
electronic, analog,
físico, cine
photochemical
experimental,
is always present.
el cine experimental,
Experimental
es una
cinema
también de nuestras
is
bases,
one
siempre
of
tuvimos
our
una fuerte relación
foundations
al cine
too. We
experimental
usually have a very strong
y creemos
programming on it, and we believe
mantener
that
viva la
maintaining
tradición del cine analógico es
analog,
fundamental
analogic
y
cinema
ahora por lo que
tradition
pasa con las
alive is
tecnologías
fundamental. And for the reasons I mentioned
digitales,
before,
nuestra condición
our
periférica
peripheral condition
nos fuerza a encontrar
forces us
estrategias
to find
diferentes para
different
esto,
strategies
lo
for
cual
this that has become
algo
actually
que es casi
something that is almost
una opción
a
casi de exclusividad, ¿no? Casi para muy
exclusiveness
pocos.
option for very
Lo
few.
que comenzó siendo el
What
16
started
milímetros
being 16
analógico,
millimeter Super 8,
una alternativa a lo que
an
eran los grandes
alternative to
formatos
the
de
large
industria,
formats
una
in the industry at
alternativa,
the time,
sobre todo en un
an
sentido
alternative in
económico,
an
para
economic
que algunos
sense
realizadores,
for
artistas,
some
directores
filmmakers, producers,
podían
directors, artists
crear
could create
dentro de un marco de mayor
within
claridad y
a
con
framework with
posibilidades
more
de
freedom
menor
and the
inversión,
possibility of lower
hoy
investment. Today,
con el desplazamiento
with
de
the
lo que es
deployment of
el
what
formato
is
analógico de la industria,
analog,
tal vez
analogic of the
o
industry,
de ser el eje de la industria
of being the axis of
hacia
the
otras
strong audiovisual industry, when that
otras
space
corrientes
is
totalmente
covered by
disciplinares,
basically digital
hoy
cinema.
lo analógico
Today,
se vuelve
analogic has become something exquisite, exquisite. Something is in the past it was familiar, and today has become exquisite for a very few group,
tiene que ver
for a very small group.
no solo
And that has to do basically not only with the cost of the movie, but the capacity to access
otras instancias
other instances
que demandan trabajar
that demand working
analógicos.
with these technologies. So,
Este universo de
this
estrategias
universe of
individuales,
individual
colectivas,
strategies and
que se
collective strategies
articulan
that deploy
en
a
laboratorios
map
independientes
of independent
permitió
labs ends up
justamente
being
lograr
basically
que
fundamental
en los márgenes podamos seguir
for
creando,
us to
produciendo
continue working within the margins,
tecnologías
continue
fotográficas, analógicas,
creating with the
tradicionales.
photochemical and analog
Es por esto que
mechanisms, the traditional cinema. From BIM,
fundamentalmente nos
BIM,
dimos cuenta con Gabriela
we
que
realized
era
together with
importante
Gabriela that it was
mantener
important to
esto
maintain
esta
this more than
conversación
ever.
y
From the first
venimos
edition of our
proponiendo
biennial, we
algunas
have been
activaciones
proposing
en
special
todos los
activities
módulos
regarding
fotoquímicos
photochemical formats,
y nos pareció
and we
importante empezar
thought
a crear
important
también un
we needed to start having a space of gathering, of meeting, to exchange experiences, to be able to expose different models, strategies, so that, as I said, we can keep this network alive that enables many of us artists continue to produce with these technologies that we love. So that's why we got in touch with Azucena. She is our absolute specialist in this sense to us in our BIM. Together we coordinated this first meeting we do in the biennial of independent labs. Thank you all for being here. I'll give the floor to Azucena so she can get into more detail on how these activities will be carried out and start with this first activity of the lab meetings, independent lab meetings in this fifth edition of the BIM. Thank you very much.
Hola.
Hello.
¿Qué tal? Bueno, muchas gracias Andrés y
Thank you very
Gabriela
much,
por
Andrés and Gabriela,
invitarme a coordinar esta movida con la que
for
estoy muy
asking me
contenta
to
que
coordinate
esté
this.
empezando a
I'm
ocurrir
very happy
en la
for this to start
virtualidad. Y
happening
bueno,
in
muchas
virtuality.
gracias a
Thank
toda la
you
pandilla de la BIM, todos
to
los
all the
coordinadores que están
BIM
por
gang,
ahí
all the coordinators
detrás,
back there
desde el centro de operaciones de la
in the
BIM,
operation
manejando
center
todas las
of
maquinolas
BIM,
para que estemos acá.
managing,
Entonces estoy
handling, or the machinery
súper
for us to
contenta
be here. So I'm
porque es
very
algo
excited.
que,
This is
pues como decía Andrés,
something,
teníamos
as
muchas ganas
Andres
de hacer hace
said,
un montón de
we
tiempo.
wanted to
Hace
do
2 años
for some
ya
time now. 2
hubo
years
una
ago, there
de
was
tantas reuniones de laboratorios
one of the many
independientes que
meetings of these independent
eh,
labs
se hizo en la Ciudad de
done in
México,
the city of Mexico
que la verdad originalmente
that
estaba pensada
originally
para
was
hacerse
thought to be done
sobre todo para incluir a todos
especially
los
to
laboratorios
include all the
latinoamericanos
Latin
que
American
siempre
labs
quedaban medio afuera de
that
todas
were
estas
somehow left
juntadas
outside of all
que se
the
hacían en
typical
Europa o en
gatherings done
Norteamérica.
in
Y bueno,
North America or
como
Europe.
siempre pasa, los
As it usually
apoyos
happens,
siempre son difíciles de conseguir a la hora de
it's
viajar
always hard
para
to obtain
los
support when
latinoamericanos. Así que,
traveling,
bueno, al
especially for Latin
final en el
Americans. So,
encuentro,
bottom
pues
line in
estábamos
this
muy poquitos
meeting,
afortunados
there was
de
very
la pandilla
few of us
latinoamericana.
from Latin
Y ahora
America
encontramos
who were
que,
lucky
bueno,
enough to
con
be
toda
there, and
esta
we
cosa
find
virtual a
that
la
with
que
this
nos estamos acostumbrando
thing we're
además
getting used to these
a
days.
juntarnos
We're getting used
en
to
estas
getting
cuestiones
together in these
virtuales, a
virtual
los desfasajes de
environments,
audio y que se le cae a
getting
uno
used
todo y
to
tal, pero bueno,
problems with audio, getting lost
está
someone on the
esa
way of the
superventaja de que
video.
ahora
I mean,
sí nos
we do
podemos
have
ver
the
y escuchar
advantage, super
todos,
advantage of
podemos
seeing each other,
que
listening,
pudimos hacer como
listen
un
to each other. We
programa
can have a
con
program
toda la
with
pandilla
all the
y entre
gang
todos para
and all of us
podamos
together to be able
finalmente
to
como
finally
trazar este mapa que tenemos tantas ganas de
draw
hacer, ¿no?
this
Para
map we want
encontrarnos
to
todos, ya más o
draw,
menos lo
to
tenemos
get all
así
together. We
visto,
kind of have it in
pero
our
creo que
heads,
hay
but
muchos espacios en
there's a
blanco
lot of
que esperemos
blank
que podamos
spaces that we
ahora
hope we can
como ver
fulfill
más claramente.
now.
Y bueno, esta es la
And
primera
this is the
sesión
first session.
y van a ser 5 sesiones en donde
There's going
además
to be
también
5
vamos
in
a
total, and
compartir
besides, we're going
no
to
solo entre
share
los
not
labos
just
latinoamericanos, sino también
among the Latin
van a
American
estar
labs, but we will
los
also
chicos
have
del
the guys
Abominable, que es
from the
un súper
Abominable, a
eh,
huge
laboratorio
lab,
independiente en la
independent lab
periferia de París, y también
in the peripheral
Richard Tu
space
y Diane
of
Berry
Paris. Rich and
el
Tour, Diane Dury from
laboratorio
the
en Australia que
lab
se
in
llama Nanolab,
Australia
y que
called
además
Nanolab.
de que es un modelo
Besides
súper interesante,
it
ellos
being
se
a
la
very
pasan
interesting
viajando por
model,
todos
they
lados y
travel
creo
all
que
over the
conocen
world
a
and
todos los
they know
laboratorios
all the
latinoamericanos
labs in Latin
quizás mejor
America,
que nosotros y del mundo, ¿no?
even
Son
better than we do, and in the world too.
como unos expertos además
Experts
en las cuestiones de las máquinas y hacer
in terms of
esos rescates
machinery and
genealógicos que
doing these
tanto nos gustan
analogical rescues we love so
Latinoamérica, ¿no?
much
Estar
in Latin
rescatando
America.
fierros. Pero bueno, esta primera sesión,
This
que es
first session,
una de las dos que vamos a
one of the
tener hoy
two
sábado,
we will
mañana
have
tendremos
today,
otras dos.
Saturday, and we'll have another two tomorrow.
Estoy con
I have here with me
estos vecinos de Brasil y Uruguay,
my
que me
friends,
encanta
my
tenerlos
neighbors
acá
from Brazil and
porque
Uruguay. I love
además
having them
sé que
here because
se conocen entre ustedes y que
I
de
know
vez
you
en
guys
cuando
know each other, and
intercambian
then every now and then you
data y cositas
exchange
así.
data and
Primero
things.
voy a presentar a los amigos de Laberinto,
Let me
al
introduce
laboratorio
our friends
brasileño,
from the Brazilian
que
lab, Laberinto,
está representado acá por nuestro
represented
amigo
here by our
Rodrigo
friend
Sousa,
Rodrigo Sousa.
que voy a leer un poquito
I will read a
quién
bit
es por aquellos que no lo
on his
conozcan.
biography.
Él
For those of you who do
es
not
el
know him,
cofundador
he
de
is the
un colectivo que se
co-founder
llama
of a
Mundo en
collective
Poco,
called Mundo en Poco,
que
World
se
in a
armó en
Little,
el año
put
2004 en las
together in
periferias de Sao Paulo. Y
2004 in
también
the
es el
peripheral
director
areas
del
of
Super
Sao
Off,
Paulo,
que es un
director of Super
festival
Off, a
súper
festival,
interesante
very
en Sao
interesting
Paulo,
festival in Sao Paulo,
donde además de que
where
muestran películas,
besides
tienen
showing
como toda una
films,
red
they have a
de
network
talleres
of workshops
y otros
and other
festivales
festivals
periféricos.
in,
Y bueno, él
in the peripheral
es profesor
areas.
también
He's a
universitario
university
y está
professor.
acompañado de Vini Campos, que también está
He's
trabajando
with Vini
con él en el
Campos, working with
laboratorio, y
him in
nos
the
van a
lab.
contar como este modelo de trabajo que tienen,
He
que
will share
la
this
verdad
model they
es bastante
have.
único. Yo
It's quite
nunca
unique,
vi
let me tell you. Have
algo
never seen
parecido. Me
anything like it.
gustaría
I would like
que ya
to.
están ahí, ¿no? Ya me están
Well, they're
escuchando,
there.
perdón.
Yes,
Este es
they can hear me.
mi
This is
primer
my
Zoom
first
así. No, estoy
Zoom
como la abuelita.
session.
¿Me
I'm like,
escuchan?
Grandma, can you hear me? Grandma says.
Bueno, y también quiero hablar un poco de
I would
Guillermo
like to talk
Zabaleta,
about
que
Guillermo
es nuestro
Zabaleta
amigo
as well,
vecino
our
uruguayo, que
neighboring
está
Uruguayan
representando
friend
a FAC,
representing
que es la Fundación de Arte
FAC,
Contemporáneo Uruguay,
FAC,
que tienen
the
muchos años
Uruguayan Contemporary
también
Art Foundation,
armando
that have
una movida
that
súper
has been around
interesante en
for
Uruguay,
many years now, putting together a
eh,
very interesting thing in Uruguay,
muy comunitaria, y que
quite
bueno,
community
además de ser
oriented,
artista visual
besides being a
y
visual
docente,
artist
también
and a
está con
teacher, a
este
professor.
colectivo en donde
He
hacen
participates
sus
in this
propios
collective,
films
doing
y
their own
están
films,
también trabajando mucho con
and
talleres
works a lot with
y
workshops as well,
armando
and
máquinas.
putting
Ya
together
nos van a contar
equipment.
mejor cómo
And
es que
well,
trabajan
I'll
desde
let him
Montevideo, que también tiene sus
tell us. They work out
particularidades.
of Montevideo with their
eh,
peculiarities.
en este laboratorio de cine, que
This film
cuando lo conocí estaba
lab, when I met it,
en un
when
lugar
I
chiquito
saw it
cerca
for the
del
first
puerto,
time, it
pero
was
bueno, ahora ya se han
in a
mudado, ¿no?
small
Ya
place
nos contará
near the
Guillermo
port.
cómo se han venido
Things have
moviendo de lugar en
changed.
lugar. Y
Guillermo
bueno,
will
me
tell us
gustaría
about it.
como arrancar con
I would like to
los
get
chicos
started
de
with the
Laberinto,
guys from
Rodrigo y
del
Vini,
Laberinto, Rodrigo and
preguntándoles
Vini
así
from
como
Brazil.
de comienzo una
Let me ask you,
como breve semblanza
right
de
up
cómo empezó
front,
el
how
labo. Yo los
did
conocí
the
hace muchos
lab
años en
start?
esta movida de
I
Mundo en
met you many
Foco,
years ago in this
que
Mundo
trabajaban
Foco
con fotografía
thing. You
estenopeica
worked with
en
SNOPEC
una favela en las
photography
afueras
in a
de Sao
favela in
Paulo,
the
pero
outskirts
después
of Sao Paulo,
fueron moviéndose
and
hacia
then
lo
you
que es
moved
el
towards
laberinto. No sé
what the
cuál de los dos
labyrinth,
quiere
the laberinto
empezar a hablar
is.
sobre
Who would
este
like to
comienzo del
start and
laboratorio
talk about
en
the
Sao Paulo.
beginnings of the lab in Sao Paulo? Maybe me?
Bueno,
All right.
¿cómo estás, Rodri? ¿Bien?
How are you? Thank you for the invitation, Andres, Gabriela, and Asu. Well, we started in 2004, as Azu said, and just with workshops for children, opaque photography. We continued with this project for many years, more than 15. And then we went on to study, investigate, research other things. Cinema was accidental. We tried after Stenopeg a fixed um, photography and small digital cameras that were arriving, and we started filming with those cameras we received, and we started doing our own films, shooting our own films. Meanwhile, we were continue to do the workshops. We were studying at the time too, so that's our period of education, of training in video, audiovisual, and the film. And we went to some schools there, and together with the Stenopake workshops until 2009, when we started with different workshops and exhibits of films in the periphery of Sao Paulo. And suddenly we became the collective that was um, the one that showed more films as a cinema club. It was a novelty because people, after the exhibit, we shared the pictures of the people who were watching the film, and we saw that when you see yourself on on the screen was exciting, and everybody was ecstatic and
Mm.
happy. And then we thought we need to make our own film. And meanwhile, we were studying cinema, filmmaking. So one thing brought the other. In 2010, we started studying Super 8 format because here in Teleimage, the Casablanca group shot pictures here in Brazil. We received the first scan of AGI in Brazil, 4K, 8K, and I was there. I had finished my studies. I was not
El que hace
running
todo,
errands
claro.
there, just simply that.
Ujú.
But I get an eye scan, last generation one, and we had to try all the films here in Brazil for digital intermediation for 4 and 8K. And that unit didn't have a graph for Super 8, so there was a lot of Super 8 left out there, and I had heard a lot of people talking about it, and I kept an eye on it. So I started on my own analyzing the format. In 2010, I got a scholarship from the
Mm.
city of Sao Paulo to do research on Super 8, and I had the festival in Curitiba. um, I got a ticket and a budget, a per diem, and or to learn with them. Leandro was a great guy that drove us and accepted there as listeners, a part of that project of the workshop, and then we participated as guests, and then we edited there in those workshops in Sao Paulo as well. In 2014, all the guys from Mundo Foco, the collective, had tried and filmed and shot in Super 8 and even won awards on it. And an informal talk with Leandro, he said, well, you have to organize a festival because we do not have where to show our films. So I thought, well, that's a good idea. And we know how to do it. So in 2014, since Cat 8 was like a godfather, Leandro was like a godfather because of for the creation of Super Off, our festival on Super 8. So we started and never stopped our research. We continued researching throughout the years. And now we have the seventh edition of the festival. Now I think in the thing we start 2014 with several barriers because Corta Ocho Cat 8
Sí.
had a budget, and I believe that our biggest problem was to reveal the films. We sent it to Arcoiris. I think it was Jorge first and then Azucena. We did this for 2, 3 years the revealing in Arcoiris, and we had to go to Buenos
No estaba
Aires,
tan mal, hombre, no
stay
estaba
for
tan
two,
mal.
3 days.
También
That was not that bad,
daba
dude.
su paseo. Pero
You could tour a little. Yeah, but I
eso sí.
spent a lot of money. Well, anyways, in 2016, I went to Cuba to study a master's on creation on documentaries, and I had a great meetings with Marines, Saito, and Hoffman that delivered a workshop on 16 millimeters where he taught us to reveal black and white films. So I developed together with two Brazilian guys who were there and that loved Super 8. Happy coincidence, you might say. It was Tiago and Nicholas who spent some time in Buenos Aires too and had done some things. We had 3 cameras and 3 cartridges. So we starting putting things together, and we did a workshop, a stage of super off in the school, and that was continued. And there's Caio, who's teaching in the school. He's this Brazilian who stayed there, continued the tradition back there in that school. That's very good to know. I went back from Cuba in 2017. We didn't want to reveal our
Sí.
films just yet, but I sent Azu a message. Arcoiris was completely covered. That year we had 30 films and we couldn't reveal them in this little time, in maybe 30 days. So there, that's how things
Y
got
podías revelar en Cuba, podías revelar
complicated. You
en
could
Sao
reveal
Paulo,
in
¿no?
Cuba, you could reveal in Sao Paulo. Well, we started researching. It was 30 days away from the festival, and everybody went crazy. How Rodrigo is going to do this? And I said, it's possible, and we can try this. A lot of people got together, a lot of godfathers, Foster, Baca, Kaká, Azucena, Frederick, the German guy who was talking to Ivan all the time. And I mean, a lot of people got together that we could count of. Tag from Japan. We
Adrian Cousy.
wrote to everybody to try and reveal a black and white film and try and do the chemical aspect of it. I
Claro,
knew
esa es
how to
la
review,
cosa.
but didn't have the chemical um, ingredients. So in the Brazilian Cinematheque, he had a chemical aspect in his at home. Some other one, a girl, had just arrived from Portugal and had different ingredients. So we spent 2 days looking for the all the chemistry and gathering the people. Started running the tests. We failed a lot, yes. Fortunately, we had a lot of films there. We had the support from the government. Now we don't.
Claro, esto fue antes del apocalipsis, ¿no?
Before the apocalypses, right? Yes. A week before the festival, I think it started on a Thursday. On Monday, we managed to reveal the first film. We spent
Muy
24/7
emocionante. Era la maratón
taking
reveladora.
turns. It was like a marathon of revealing. Yes, we were all in the
Todos drogados en la
theater
sala.
smelling of the chemical substances, but we 2018,
Sí,
the following year, we said, okay, now we know how to reveal black and white film. So we'll just do a black and white workshop. And so we did.
así empezaron.
And the guys from the structure came to Brazil
Ujú.
for a color revealing
Que son
workshop.
Melissa y Gustavo, que están
Melissa and
en Labor
Gustavo
Berlín, ¿no?
in Labor Berlin,
Ujú, que son tus paisanos.
Berlin, um,
Exacto.
from Brazil, right? Yes. They they did these workshops, and I talked to someone who had their short film in 16, last 16 short movie done in a school of film. And I was talking to other projects. Hey, there is a workshop for revealing in color. So we added
Buenísimo.
this person to the gang. We started working on this. And that last year, I mean, how we got to the
Bueno, y
labyrinth,
entonces se puede
laberinto, the
decir
name of the
que
place. So we can
todo
say that
el entusiasmo por el
all the
fílmico y el Super
enthusiasm
8
for films
arrancó
and Super
con
8
Curta Oito, que
started
es como un
with Curta
festival
Oito,
en
a
Curitiba, que, bueno,
festival in
para
Curitiba.
todos los que no han
For
estado nunca por Brasil,
if
es
you
como
haven't
un
been
país
to Brazil,
tan
is
grandote
this is such a
que
large country
Curitiba y Sao
that
Paulo, sí,
Curitiba,
los dos están en
Curitiba,
Brasil,
and
pero
Sao
son
Paulo,
como
yes,
dos
they're both in
planetas
Brazil, but it's
diferentes,
like
¿no?
two different
Entonces, ese
planets.
festival llevaba mucho
This
tiempo ahí. Leandro
festival had
Shipi,
been
que
there for
lamentablemente
a long
murió
time. Leandro
hace, creo,
Shipi, who
ya
unfortunately
3 años, ¿no?
died
4 años.
some 3, 4 years
Hace
ago.
4 años.
Four
Bueno, él
years
es
ago.
como el súper entusiasta del Super 8 en
He was a
Brasil y
great
empezó a hacer
enthusiast
este
of Super 8
festival
in
de
Brazil
Super
and
8
started
desde hace un
organizing
montón de años, que
this
nadie entendió de dónde
festival in
salió ese
Brazil
marciano,
many
pero
years
de
ago. No
repente
one
había un
knew where this
festival de puro
Martian
Super
came
8 en
from. It
Curitiba
was
y
a
cuando
festival and
uno
just
llega ahí dice,
only
¿qué
Super
onda? Y
8 in
tenía como toda
Curitiba.
esta cuestión
And
de
and
las
he had
finanzas como súper
this
arregladas,
thing,
entonces mucha gente de
finances all
Brasil iba
settled. A
cada
lot of
año
people
como
from
si
Brazil
fuera
went every year, like if it
pues como
was
una cosa religiosa, y
a
entonces
religion.
de ahí
And
ustedes como que hicieron
from
su propio
there,
festival y se puede
you
decir que
organized your
su
own festival,
laboratorio
and we can say that your
salió
lab
de estos
came
festivales,
from
¿no?
these festivals, right? Exactly.
Bueno, y se empezaron a volver autosuficientes porque si no,
And you became
yo me acuerdo que también
self-sufficient because I
en Curta
remember
ahorita tenían
in
que
Curtabeto,
revelar en
you
Estados
had to
Unidos
reveal in the United
o en
States.
Argentina.
Now we reveal their
Bien, vamos,
movies.
esa era la
Way
cosa.
to
Era como una
go.
cosa muy rara que en Brasil no hubiera
Something
nadie
strange that
revelando,
you
siendo
had
un
no
país tan
one
grandote, ¿no?
revealing
Era una
in the whole
cosa
huge
muy
country that is
loca.
Brazil.
Bueno, ya después
Crazy.
vamos a hablar
And now
de
we'll
qué otra gente
talk
está por
about
ahí
what
haciendo cosas
other
en Brasil. Ya
about other
mencionaste
people
un
who's
montón de
doing
gente, pero
other
me
things. You
gustaría
mentioned a lot
que
of
ahora
people, but
Guillermo
now
nos
I would
cuente un
like
poco
Guillermo
de
to
cómo
tell us a bit
comenzó FAC,
how
así como
FAC
una
started, the foundation
mini
started.
semblanza
Please tell us
de FAC
briefly
como laboratorio, porque en
as
realidad es
what it is
como
as a
toda
lab, because it's a whole
un colectivo, ¿no?
a
Artístico.
collective,
Cuéntame
artistic
cómo es.
collective. What is it like? First of all, thank you all, Andre, Gabriela, Su, Rodrigo, our partners, and all the people out there. Thank you very much for the invitation. What we have here is a tale of adventures. In such sense, I believe that passion is what moves us all. And from our lab, we have a collective of filmmakers and artists, and the objective is to preserve it and produce and research and love thought in images. We started in 2006 thinking with an archaeological work by Angela Lopez, thinking of the lab. I will share a link so that you have more
Perdón, Guille, ¿podrías
information.
sostener el mic con la mano para que ahí, por
A
favor? Ahí
correction,
está
a
precioso, ahora
correction on
sí.
the
¿Mm?
placement of the mic. So I was saying that I'm going to share a link on the genesis of the project, uh, so that you have something to consider. It's not just the film work, but it's also we were looking at that time to work from the file of artists. From this research of the archaeology of objects and this first event, we get the idea from lab. The following year, some colleagues in Montevideo, Canepa, and Rusola, they needed a place to reveal. And with that idea, Angela and the rest of the collective had, we consolidate the project. And that's when we get the ordinary course of the mapping from experimental artists of the region, and that drive was given by Hirst in 2006. A visit from her to the collective in the old city. She brought about her films and projector to show her work, and that was very generous of her and motivated us to start researching and mapping not just artists but also the films, to preserve those films and to contact with something emblematic for the region, for all Latin America, the documentary experimental cinema festival starting in 54 in the 50s. So that somehow generated a motivational platform to go
Perdón, ¿cómo
look
se
for those
llamaba el festival?
materials. What's the name of the
Documental
festival? Documentary
del sobre.
Sodre. Sodre,
Ok.
SODRE, Broadcasting State
Sí, 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 sí. Mm,
Documentary Festival. Talking about that, we a mapping was a mapping arose after some peaks. Stefano and Joanna had given us. We started a challenge to put together an exhibit of experimental shorts. We asked help from our Argentinian friend. Rubén
ah,
Guzmán is our friend from Argentina, and together we put together this first experience on shorts for 3 minute
¿En
shorts.
qué
We
año
did
fue eso?
12. What year was that?
Ok.
2008. 2009 approx. And that was the crazy time for revealing 12 films to rolls for of 12, 3 minutes and show them in the next day. We had to do it in positive because we had to project it in negative and positive. So that was a lot of work, and with the help of the people in the lab, the good help from Musitelli, another godfather the lab had, we got into it. We got to the exhibit, we projected the films, and that was the foundation and the big event that made the lab visible. And the following year, something very interesting happened. The connection with files, the contact with files, to rescue and restore films of experimental files, especially one work from a woman that was invisibilized by patriarchy. So in that sense, we were interested in visibilizing Lidia Garcia Villan, and her work is called Color. We share it in the programming. You have
La
Azucena
pueden
that
ver
we
ahí en
gave
el
you. You
sitio
can see it
de la
here in
BIM.
the website, the
Hay
BIM's
links
website.
a varios
There
trabajos
is a link to
de todos
several
los
works
labos.
from all the labs.
Sí, perdón. Ujú.
It's important that we broadcast this because I think it's an exquisite piece of art with great capacity to create, but also to restore, that we did through Vivi Optic and the University of New York and Bill
Ujú.
Brandt in 2009, 2010. It was quite a radical experience from the restoration point of view in the country. It was the first work in film restored
¿De
in
qué año es la
Uruguay.
película?
What year is the movie from?
Ah,
55. And it was restored in
ujú.
2010, and that film was finally present in the biennial of Sao Paulo in 2010, the 29th edition, where the lab participated, accompanying a project called Images in Flames. A troupe of us got together, filmmakers and restorers, for instance, Brandt, Corduviola, myself, Lopez, and Nobliga. We did a visual performance in the biennial. That marked a new element within the production and research of the lab, which is the work with files. On the one hand, working the file, preserve it, restore it, and on the other hand, the photochemical relationship, and on the other hand, the capacity to research, and on the other hand, to generate a network amongst colleagues, not just Latin America, but also from different parts of the world. We had started it with Stefano, and then Street, Sag, so Hammer, Caldini. We kept the connection with Arcisa, so that generation, that network generated a platform not just for production but also research. One of the elements I believe does very well to experimental cinema, and the possibility to expand this outlook, this profile the lab has to other places. And that's how we were invited to Spain, to Murcia, where we had several workshops done in 16 millimeters. On the one hand, the appropriation, on the other, the creation of shorts and shooting with artisan, revealing with what was left with some recipes. We expanded those, and we continued to reveal art and the artisan fashion in other places. And that was a very good experience, coordinated by Sabi Vivancos, and it's called Celluloid Memories. Very interesting. It was created from
Salvi, que es
this
un
experience.
amigo español que
Is
estuvo
a friend from
en la
Spain who
juntada
was
hace 2 años
in the
en México,
meeting two
que
years ago
trabaja
in
con archivo
Mexico. He
familiar, ¿no?
works with the family files. Exactly. They rescue these. We had the possibility to participate in the biennial of art of contemporary art in Europe with this
Ok.
project, um, film and arts, and project several
Bueno,
times.
y cuéntame una cosa, Guillermo.
Tell me
O
something,
sea, para
Guillermo.
entender más o menos cómo
To
trabajan,
understand
ustedes
how you
tienen un
work,
lugar
you
físico
have a
en
physical
donde hay un
space
colectivo de
where
gente
there is a collective
que
of people
tiene ahí sus herramientas o
with your
cómo es
tools, or
que
how
funciona.
is it?
¿Trabajan como un
How does it
laboratorio
work? Does it work as a
convencional o hay
conventional
que
lab?
tener una
Oh, you
membresía o
have to
cómo
have a
es
membership.
su
How does it
función
work?
FAC?
Well, the foundation is a collective of artists, of
Ok.
50 or so artists within the foundation. We have
Ujú.
the lab, the FAC, the FAC FAC. It's an expanded site integrated by filmmakers and artists that, depending on the activities that we have, are included. There's
Ok.
some 15 of us within the lab, plus the 50 colleagues within the
Ok.
collective. Physically, we have had several
Ujú.
experiences, and we have had in the old city uh, in
Sí.
2010, the place you knew, this small place, and then we moved to a
Ujú.
home, a house, uh, in another part of the city, in the lower part of the city. We expanded all our tools there, and we got visitors from many places. Richard Toy with residencies, Raolo, Ibiza, Romeco,
Sí.
Park Film Center, and we have Mark Street as well. So people from Crater Rave. So we have a lot of colleagues that
Ujú.
passed through this house, and we did many shows and labs and workshops on the first two phases of experimental cinema in Montevideo, a gathering devoted to experimental cinema. And today, after giving up that house, we spent some 6 years or so in that building. We moved to the center,
Ok,
the cultural center
ok.
uh, in the city. It's an open space where visitors can come and show their movies, their films. We have training, educational workshops, there's programs,
Ujú.
there's residencies. And during this pandemic, we have virtual residencies with more than 16, 17 colleagues all over the world participating,
Ok,
basically from Latin America. And we also have our restoration phase. Richard Toy and the Anavari did the hacking uh, contact copy, and that enables us to copy films and do a
ok.
lot of
Ahora vamos
creation
a
from
entrar
there. Now,
en el tema
we'll get
de las
into
herramientas, que siempre es
the
interesante porque nos
tools
encantan
topic,
los
which
fierros a
is
todos.
very, we like
Entonces,
material and
si yo estoy
objects.
en
We
Uruguay
like
y
these
quiero
units. If I'm in
revelar mi
Uruguay, if I want to
película,
reveal my
¿se la puedo
film,
llevar a ustedes
can I
o
take
solo
it to
dan
you,
talleres
or
o
you
cómo
only give out
funciona eso?
workshops? Well, what we do there,
Ajá,
I mean, we do a collective horizontal experience. We do not offer
eso,
a service. We do it
bien,
together. So if you have a film, you come to us,
ok.
we program a meeting, and that revealing we do together. Not just for you to get that image
Ujú,
you're expecting, but you can get the tools if you
ujú.
want to do it at home, or participate in new experiences of the labs, such as specific activities we have. I don't know, things like the night of the
Sí,
museums. We summon different
buenísimo. Bueno,
artists
toda
for
la
those
gente que
events
está
too.
ahora en
So
el
all the
Zoom
people here
puede
in
entrar al
Zoom
chat y ver
can
el
enter the
link que nos
chat
puso
and see the link
Guillermo ahí
Guillermo
con
wrote.
un link al blogspot
There is a
de
link
FAC
to the
Montevideo,
blogspot for
donde hay como toda
FAC
esta data de la que
Montevideo
nos está
with all the
contando
data
del devenir
Guillermo is
histórico
sharing right
del
now
colectivo. Y
in this
ahora me gustaría
collective
preguntarle a los chicos del laberinto
course.
sobre
Let me
esta
ask the
cuestión, ¿no?
guys from
De cómo es
Laberinto
el
on
modelo de
this.
trabajo,
What is the
el lugar
working
físico.
model, the
Tienen
physical
una cosa
place? Do
bien
you have
particular que
you
es
have something
que
very peculiar?
ustedes revelan
You
los rollos
reveal
de otros, pero
some other roles,
justamente
but
esta es una forma de
this
financiación
is a way to
de su
finance
festival, ¿no? ¿Cómo es esa
your
cosa?
festivals.
Ahí nos...
It's
Dale,
my
Vini,
turn to talk, I guess
a
now. Go
trabajar.
ahead, Vinny, get to work. Let's see. I think that our working model is like crazy
De
model.
los locos.
Absolutely crazy, yes, because as Rodrigo says, the lab is born as an initiative to try and resist the scenario, the situation of Brazil. We have this
Ujú.
background that is very near festivals. It has to do with the movement as a more political structure than in Brazil. We close up all the financing for cultural projects because we have a government
Básicamente, sí.
of
Creo que
dumbs.
estamos todos de acuerdo, o bueno,
I
yo estoy
guess
de acuerdo.
basically yes. Most of us were like, well, at least I agree. Yes, as Brazilian, I apologize for this. Anyways,
Sí,
And the lab is fundamental for the existence of festivals in the sense of creating financing. The money that comes in the lab is used for the existence of the
Ujú.
lab as well as the existence of the festival.
Sí.
Near the
Ujú.
festivals, we try and do some things
Sí.
to generate others, and it's a work, it's a job that we do with a lot of love because we do it for this to exist. Recently, a workshop, we were saying that we do not believe that analogical will cease to exist.
Sí.
That's not going to happen. But it could happen in Brazil if we do not have an incentive with film festivals, with the labs, with the experimental creation. If we do not do that work, the chance of not existing is very high. Now we're facing here some things such as some productions,
Ujú.
larger productions, is more lucrative to reveal in Europe than with us because we do not have a very
Claro.
complex machinery. It's very artisan. So we survive with independent
Ujú.
artists that believe in our work, and we do it in such a way that it gets out
Claro,
easier.
su lugar físico es
So your physical
un
place
espacio donde
is
están
a
ustedes
space
como
where you're
colectivo
at as a
y
collective
además el espacio de
and
trabajo
this
del
working
laboratorio,
space
¿no?
of the lab, right? Exactly. And I believe that we survive today thanks to a network uh, of others. We have we have a, we have a lot of
Sí,
people, new people coming in, but there is this network that helps us survive, and we help others
sí.
produce and have their own material. Rodrigo, if you want to add something,
Yo creo que es un modelo muy
it's a
autosustentable. Está súper lindo
self-sustaining
porque está
model. It's very nice because you have
el festival que
festival
invita a
inviting
gente a hacer talleres, a
people to do
filmar, sobre todo
workshops to
tienen este
film,
taller que es
especially
como
you have this
el que
workshop
mueve más gente, que es el de toma
with the
única,
most
¿no?
people
Que
is
invitan a la
unique take,
gente de cualquier
inviting
lado, ¿no?
people
Porque
from
es
anywhere.
un colectivo
It's a
bastante
quite
periférico y
very
entonces
fairy
hay sobre todo muchos
collective.
chicos muy jóvenes
They
que
have very
jamás
young
tuvieron
people that
contacto
never
con
had
el fílmico y se
connection with the
acercan
films
a
and they
hacer sus
get
películas de toma
out there
única. Y
to
entonces después del
shoot
taller,
their unique take
ustedes revelan
films.
las
And after
películas
the workshop,
y
you
después las
reveal the
muestran en el
movies
festival.
and then
Entonces,
you
para
show
mí es
them
como
in the
un
film,
círculo
in the
perfecto.
festival.
Además,
So it's a
estas
quite a
personas que
close circle, as
participan
I think.
en los
These people
talleres
participating in the
se
workshops
revelan
that
o
reveal
bueno, mandan
or
revelar y
have it
todos van
revealed,
ahí al festival y se
and
sientan en la
everybody
sala
goes
de
to the
cine a ver su
festival and
película por primera
sit out
vez.
in the theater
Me ha
for the
tocado estar
first
ahí y hay como
time,
siempre mucha
see
emoción, hay
their
como
films. I've
una
seen it,
cosa
and
que
there's
es
a lot of
bastante
excitement,
contagiosa,
and it's
es
quite
muy lindo.
contagious.
Y
This year,
no,
sorry,
no, sí,
yes, please. We have a workshop last year and this year too. This year
sí,
was bigger. We had a workshop on intervention of films with ink
sí.
and those things. And because of the apocalypse,
¿Cuál de los dos?
which
El
which one
del
of the two
gobierno o
apocalypses,
el
the
de la
government
pandemia?
or the pandemic?
Los dos.
Both. Both
Tienen
things
doble
are the same
apocalipsis
thing. You have a
ustedes,
double
pobrecitos.
apocalypse. It's one
Ok.
apocalypse after the other here. And this time we had the
Ujú.
intervention
Sí,
online workshop. We had 70 students or so, and we had it all over Brazil. I think it's awful that this year everything is online. Everything is live.
sí.
over the computer. But on the other hand, we had access for the first
Sí,
time to the entire country of Brazil uh, with this film material. It's very nice to see some people saying how, hey, it's the first time I have a chance to touch a film
sí,
and have it in my hands. One girl said something like, this thing of doing intervention of films is like our scream of resistance. If we want to go out shooting but we
claro.
don't have no money, what we can do is this. And what's great to me is that we always find these people, former students, that are in love with the project and the process and try to keep learning. Rodrigo says that my thesis short was the last one done in
Ujú.
Brazil and in film and the university, and this was 2017 and nothing up to today. And recently, a student from the last workshop, the one from last year, with unit take in Atacrom, the new one, 16 millimeter one, started talking to me and asking on some material because he wants to do a thesis short film at his university. So somehow I think that these workshops, this movement, generate new people producing, generate a new market in Brazil. As you, as Susana, were saying, is quite strange to see Brazil, such a big country, have many producers, independent artists, and production is so small.
Claro, debería de ser mucho más grande, ¿no?
Should
Tomando en
be
cuenta la
much
cantidad de gente que
bigger
vive ahí.
considering all the
Y
people
cuéntenme
living there.
rápidamente, en el laboratorio, ¿ustedes
In the lab,
empezaron con este
you started
tanque
with this
Lomo que les prestó Laila Foster en algún momento,
this
pero
tag
ahora
Foster
fueron
rendered
ampliando
you,
sus
but now you
herramientas
expanded your
y
tools.
que es, bueno, que casi siempre son artesanales igual, pero bueno, ahora pueden
Usually
como revelar más rollos que lo que
artisan
cabe en un
in
tanque
general,
Lomo,
but
¿no?
you can
¿Cómo es?
reveal
¿Cuáles son
more
sus
now, right?
herramientas?
What are your tools? We have three tanks, 15
Ujú.
meter ones. Lana
Sí,
lives now in the center of Brazil. They moved, and it's in a different lab, their tank now, or started
están
revealing.
revelando en Brasilia, qué
They're
bueno,
revealing in Brasilia. Yes, black and white. That's great.
claro.
So there's something that has started to move. We're very happy with that. Lila once again is
Siempre
helping there.
conectando, ¿no?
Always connecting, right? So there's three, one from Renato Coelho.
Ujú.
Um, he stays with us. They don't reveal yet. That tank goes to them, and other two that are from the Soviet unit from Russia. Ukraine, I think Ivan was managing that. He was the
Sí,
one with the international purchases. He managed the implementation of the lab as how it is today. It's him and I are the head, a visible head, but there's a lot of people involved when we need them. Finally, Andres Pardo from Mexico wrote to me saying Enrico's selling his 30-meter
ujú.
tank from Colombia, And we started talking and managed to get it here. This 30-meter tank to reveal 100 feet, 10 or
Sí.
6 millimeters. That's what we have. And we have other 2 tanks, one that belonged to Leandro's ship,
Sí.
and another one is coming from the south of Brazil. We did an exchange there of things, and these are simpler tanks. Maybe we can use those, we will use those in the workshops. We
Está
haven't yet
bien.
tried them. Those 4 tanks, 15 and 30, are the ones that
Y también se habían armado
we use.
una máquina
You
para
had
poder,
a unit
como
to
un
be
baño
able
María, ¿no? Para
to,
mantener la
as
temperatura para
to
el revelado
maintain
color.
the temperature for color revealing, like simmering. Yes, Ivan made something there,
Una resistencia
like a
eléctrica.
resistance,
Ujú.
a
Ujú.
thermometer, a thermostat actually, for water. So we have a bathtub, not so big. We have a heating system there, and we have a faucet there too. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But some hot water faucet so we can reveal color.
Buenísimo. Bueno, entonces ahora, Guillermo, cuéntanos de
Guillermo,
tus
tell us
chiches. Estabas
about
hablando de
your
esta
toys.
Impresora
You mentioned
óptica, ¿no?
this optical
Esa es la que llevó
printer.
Bill Brandt a
Is the
Uruguay.
one Bill Brandt took to Uruguay? No, we brought it together with him. He brought the camera Mitchell 48, and I brought all the support from New York when we were on Orphan Films. That's the optical printer we have. But besides that, that enables us to work with 8 inflate to 16, Super 8 and 8 that can be inflated to 16, and then another unit um, hacked by Diana and partner, so we can copy color. And when we do that, we can cross it with the optical printer. In November, we have a residency of 2 colleagues that won a festival award in Uruguay called the Tour. That will do the residency in Uruguay. A colleague that spent some time in France, in Lyon.
Ujú.
Another colleague with a lab. Together with her, we're going to reveal that material, and we will use the optical printer as the contact copier. 2 tools that are fundamental, the mothers of all processes for assembling, and it enables us to work in different levels of printing. We are interested in that research and that
Sí.
search, and we reveal color too. With Jesse Lerner, we did that when they were in Montevideo, when we were in San Antonio de los Baños in 2017 in the Masters in Alternative Cinema. The experience of revealing we took was 8 millimeters, Super 8, and 16. So we did all 3 processes there at the school, and those are the things that enable us somehow to strengthen the generative network with colleagues and exchanging materials, because we do not have direct access to shipping to Uruguay because of
Eso era lo que te
customs.
iba a preguntar,
I was going to
Guillermo,
ask you
justo me diste el pie y
precisely
que
that,
después también le voy a
and I
preguntar
will ask
a los chicos de
the
Laberinto.
guys
¿Cómo
from
es la
Brazil as well.
cuestión de conseguir película y
How to
si hay
get
algún
film if
distribuidor
there is a
directamente de
distributor
Kodak, que es como el dueño del mercado, o
owning the
alguna
market
otra marca de
or
película y con los químicos, que
other
también es
brands, and
siempre
with
el
the
mismo asunto. Yo me
chemical
acuerdo haber
substances.
visto a un par subiendo al
I remember
buquebús con,
some getting on the Buquebus
con
ship
los
that unites
químicos en la
Argentina and
maleta.
Brazil
Cuéntame
with
cómo es
the
esto. ¿Dónde
chemicals in
consiguen
the
la
suitcase.
película y
Where
los
do you get the
químicos?
film and where do you get the chemicals? Films through this collaborative work with friends, for instance, Mark, Bill.
¿Pero cómo se las mandan por correo o cómo hacen?
They send it through mail. No, they bring
Ah,
them themselves.
sistema
Yes.
mula.
A mule. Yes, the same way we put together programs. Many times when we put together programs in analogical, such as Cuelca in Lima, Montevideo, connected to the films is these colleagues who we exchange um,
Ah,
fees for films that favors distribution of the material with other colleagues. And I think that that strengthens an economy that today is being
o
applied
sea
a
que
lot.
aduanas les para
So
las películas
customs
y las
will
compran de
stop
Estados Unidos, por
the
ejemplo.
films and buy them from United States, for instance. Yes, we are not buying in the States. And what we're doing is buy Orwo and the colleagues that come from Slovenia, Holland, Germany, bring those films. That's the way we do.
Sí.
That's what we do to
¿Y los
have our
químicos igual?
storage. And the chemicals, same
No
thing.
hay ningún distribuidor
There's no
ni de una
distributor
cosa ni de la otra.
of neither one. You cannot get distributor. Getting a distributor that has everything is very difficult. That's why Angela has been several times to Buenos Aires and has brought back
Sí.
the containers of chemicals in Buquebus, the ship.
Se
And she's
llevan
been very
Fernet
lucky.
y el
They take
C41.
they take Fernet, alcohol, the aperitif, and
Claro,
or Campari, the other aperitif, and
exacto, esa es la triada.
C41. Perfect combination. Together with Rodrigo, what happened, an experience we can share, the facilitator, we did, we had a
Sí,
very nice experience in Quilmes, and we participated, they participated, we invited Macarena Cordiviola and Carolina Capa to do this together. So we profited from that going to Buenos Aires and came back with um, material. And the amount we can import.
yo entendí que sí podían hacerlo, pero que tenían un
I
límite,
thought
un
that you
tope
could
o
do
algo
it,
así,
but
eso
you
ya no
had a
puede ser.
limit.
¿Antes era así o cómo?
It was the limit is
Mm,
$200
entiendo.
in a
¿Y
personal
eso es
shipping,
anual?
and that's
$200
annual.
anual?
$200 per year. That's in 5
Ah,
different shippings throughout the year.
ajá.
But
Es,
if you add the shipping,
claro,
you get a film every two
claro,
months in that case, and you pay more the shipping than
claro,
the cost of the film. So in that sense, there is a problem to us.
claro.
We have a problem. That's why many of the activities we
Ujú.
do in some places, we were in Lima, for instance, working in Cusco, and we have a chance to do some exchanges, and we are
Claro, por eso
getting
es tan
back
importante
with some
tejer estas
material.
redes, porque
That's why
el
it's so
sistema
important to
mula es
generate
el que
this
rige, ¿no?
network because the mule
Déjame
is what rules.
preguntarle a los chicos brasileños cómo es que
Let me ask the
funciona
Brazilian
en
guys
su tierra del
how does
doble
it work
apocalipsis la
in
cosa.
the double
Ya me contaron
apocalyptical
que
land
ustedes
the thing.
ven en la
You told
película,
me
¿no? De
that you
hecho,
sell the film,
venden como
you sell
el
the
costo completo
the
de
complete course, right?
película y
From the
revelado. ¿Es
film
así?
and the revealing. Is that so? Yes.
¿Cómo hacen? ¿Son distribuidores?
Do
¿Cómo hacen
you
con los
distribute? Are you
químicos? Cuéntenme un
distributors?
poco
What do you
eso.
do with chemicals? Tell me about it. That's real bad. Like Guillermo with mules. people from the US and Europe coming in all the time. There's no C6 in Brazil right now. I'm desperate because they have a workshop uh, on, and we need to
La
reveal.
película que venden en su
The film
laboratorio
you sell
es
in your
de la
lab
película que
is the
lleva las
film that
mulas.
the mules take.
Digo, estamos diciendo
Yes,
mulas sin
we're
que
saying
se
mules.
ofenda a nadie, ¿no?
I
No
mean,
es nada
nobody take
despectivo, es
offense if this is not
algo al
to
contrario.
denigrate. I mean, it's
Hemos sido mulas todo
we
el
have all
tiempo.
been mules at a point in time. It's not just that. It's I'm trying at that time
Ujú.
to
La
manage
distribución,
the distribution, fixed distribution here. So I call Kodak every week, and that's very hard because the division of cinema in
ujú.
Brazil is two people, and they know me because I call all the
El
time.
lunes en la mañana siempre está
Monday
Rodrigo. Hola.
morning, Rodrigo's call. But yesterday I discovered, and I called Kodak, and they discovered that I didn't have, never,
Mm,
it was out of the system of their computers. The sent to
sí,
was
revelar
they didn't have
negativo
even in
color.
their logs this chemicals for revealing, and it was not in their system because no one had asked for it in many years. So I asked them to include it. So next year we have here a stock
Sí,
that so we can get it throughout the year because we're cheating with chemicals, right? For revealing, altering things. It would be good to have all the chemicals. I mean, that's the
claro.
dream of every lab to have all of the chemicals, at least the basics. And then we offer here a revealing service. We have to have it. In the movies we bring, the last four purchases, for instance, one was Mono Nowhere from the
Sí,
States. Vinny was there.
ok.
The other was Renato Coelho was in Mexico, in Sicunan. So we talked to Alfredo
Ujú.
Moreno for a pick and to have something sent by Renato. There's a guy in Mexico who was on holiday in there, and we traffic it there with Alfredo again. I brought like 24 films we were expecting.
El tipo traía en la maleta un
The
calzón y
guy
sus películas.
had his underwear and the 24 films in his suitcase. Yes, all carted. And we even paid for the freight uh, for the suitcase. He had
Claro.
to check it in. We paid for him to check it in. If someone in Goodwill knows the project does this to help,
Pero
of
recuérdame
course we
cómo
would do
se
this.
llama este
Remind me
laboratorio que está en Sao
what the
Paulo,
name of
que
the lab
está
in
este
Sao Paulo
señor
is with this guy.
AGF. ¿Cómo se llamaba este hombre
AGF.
del
And the name of the
laboratorio?
man?
Arthur. Estaba este laboratorio hace mucho tiempo con una máquina que
Arthur.
nunca usa, que cobraba
They
carísimo, que
have
sobre todo
a
revela
unit
foto, ¿no? Pero
that never uses and now reveals photography. Always black and
sí.
white, yes, but in color, they only
Pero él no
have
es
every now and
distribuidor
then a
de
very
Kodak.
large. Was he a distributor from Kodak? No, no, that's a trick. Well, there's to each its own, but there is no distributor for Kodak. We tried for years. We offer this, we offer that. 100 years, 100 movies, 100 films last year. I mean, how is it possible that your Kodak does not recognize as a lab? I mean, no, there is no representative for Kodak in Brazil. Me, and other people who incentivate, uh, calling Kodak to ask over and over. It's not just me. There's a lot of people who want to have
Porque Arthur
films here.
anunció algo que tenía con
Something
Kodak, no me
happened
acuerdo
with
bien
Kodak.
cómo era, pero era
It was
Eso,
It was a
oficial.
picture, official Kodak Lab. No, it's just a
Ah,
photograph. No
ok.
validity
Qué
there.
increíble.
Amazing. I sent news to Kodak because Lab was doing this and I don't believe in them. I sent a mail to Kodak asking if this was for real. I never got an answer, but after the mail, they removed those images from
Ujú.
internet.
Increíble,
I don't know if something happened in
increíble.
the middle, but there it is. Another way we're doing is throughout John from the United States with
Ok,
films. John Swinch. And does this for everybody. But now he wrote to me yesterday that his mails just express the
claro,
priority.
claro,
Priority
ya ahora
mail,
es más
just that.
complicado también
Now it's
porque
even
la
more
gente no está
complicated because
viajando,
people are not
entonces
traveling.
está la heladera vacía, ¿no?
The refrigerator is empty. Guillermo said it's more expensive. As Guillermo
Claro,
said, the shipping is more expensive than the films. So what we thought here is have a shared purchase. You
sí,
buy the person buys a combo. I mean, I give him an options. I managed to bring movies for the last 2 months like this. So I'm with Kodak because they guaranteed that if I do collective
sí,
purchases, they manage to bring it in 30 days. So I'm asking the guys who are
ok,
buying and give them options. If you want just the movie, this is the
sí,
price. Or dollars, of course.
claro.
And then there I include the revealing
Ah,
price and a scan and Wolverine with quite
sí,
domestic, which is what we have until our scan is ready.
es complicado, sí,
The people who pay beforehand the combo for revealing, etc., help us precisely to have a
para
flux
financiarlo.
to finance it, yes, and to negotiate. Hey, we have this, and the idea is to have a stock of films
Claro,
in the midterm. This year they were thinking of this,
sí,
but
sí,
with the
claro.
pandemic, everything went crazy. I mean, everything
Sí,
is
porque
postponed
también
for
hay que
2021.
tener
Yes,
las
because we have to
películas, pero también
have
hay
the
que
films,
tener
but you
cómo
have to
revelarlos. No sirve
have
de
how
nada
to
tener
reveal
stock
them.
de
It's not
Hexachrome
worth
si no
having
tienes
um,
los químicos
the
así
stock of this and
para
not the
revelarlos. Se
other.
te quedan ahí todos atorados en una
You
cajita
get all the
esperando
films
su
stuck in a
momento.
box waiting for
Déjame
their moment to come. Let
preguntarle a
me ask
Guillermo, acá está
Guillermo.
nuestro amigo, te pregunta
Our
el
friend here
general
asks,
Tregan, tu paisano, cómo
El General
hacía Nelson
Trega,
Weinstein
Nelson
cuando él
Weinstein,
tenía el
your
laboratorio de cine en
partner,
Uruguay, no sé en
how
qué
did he do
momentos,
it when
ya
they
nos
have
contarás,
this
para tener
film lab
película y
in
químicos.
Uruguay? How did he do to get both films and chemicals? Oh, Andres is the general. Okay. They also had a company called Synergy, a lab in a
Ujú.
frank zone, a free zone. Uruguay at that time was a place
Libre de impuestos.
tax
Ajá.
free, yes, duty free, a place where production from abroad uh, came in to film,
Ah, le
reveal
salía más
there, and
barato.
took the material. It was cheaper.
Mm.
They were there in transit. So the
¿De qué año
material
estamos
was in
hablando?
transit. What year is this? 2014,
Ah, hace
2010
poquito, yo pensé que
on, not that
hablábamos
long
de
ago.
la prehistoria.
It's
Ujú.
recent. 2008, 2010,
Sí.
2011. That lab
Ujú.
finally closed. And yes, it was an industrial lab. And I imagine that they got their material from the US.
Claro.
I imagine so. But when talk about a production company,
Claro,
when
compraban por
you revealed
volumen y en una zona franca
thousands of
les
meters,
cuadraba perfecto.
they bought in bulks. Yes, exactly. And yes, it was quite timely. I collaborated with many artists from abroad coming to Uruguay to film, and we used that methodology, but the material didn't remain in the
Claro, se lo
country.
llevaban todo.
Today, depending on the volume, imports
Claro. Voy a
is
aprovechar
a
que estás
problem.
ahí, Guillermo, para
Since you're there,
preguntarte
Guillermo, let me
de
ask you,
la pandilla local, ¿no? ¿Qué es
the
lo que
local gang,
ocurre en
what happens in
Uruguay
Uruguay
alrededor de FAC? Debe
with
haber
regards
algunas otras
to
personas
the
que, bueno, seguramente pasaron por ahí. Ahí
foundations
habló tu
lab?
paisano Andrés, que está en
Andres
México también haciendo sus
from
movidas, pero
Mexico
debe haber algunas
send us
otras
a message just now, but
pandillas ahí
there's
en
probably a
Uruguay con
different
los que
gang
tengas
in
contacto
Uruguay you
y
have
esa red que hay
connections,
ahí, me
contacts with, that
gustaría que
network
habláramos un
there.
poco de eso.
Let's talk about that. Well, what the lab has, it's a
Ujú.
transit place. A lot of people get trained and educated there and then develop their projects,
Sí.
personal projects. We have collaborated with many artists, for instance, Carla Shaquelo, Adrián Moreno, Fabi Un, Cine Frontera, Escuela de Rayanes, en
Ujú.
Maldonado, Ernesto Sacamacho with did the last workshop of alternative cinema with Sarvanol, colleagues that come through the lab and continue with their experiences and continue with their labs. They move on to their own experiences in not this year, but with the lab and the talk, and there's more than 100 and something people in a year. Experimental cinema in Montevideo, we gathered very significant and numerous experiences, such as the case of John Wisi, when Paolo Davanzo came and Lisa Marr came to develop the John Wisi experience. Well, there we had 50 something people, almost 70 in one Super 8 workshop, each motivated to continue working after that. There are other experiences more in the educational side. UCF has a lab, but the interesting point in all of this is that people do not stick to a store, to a place. Yes, develop their things personally
Ujú.
and collectively. That's what's interesting. So, in that sense, I believe that it we're sort of facilitators. Somehow, we collaborate, promote, and generate a new network connected more to formalities of
Sí.
the movies. For instance, we work from the art
Ujú.
point of view a lot in terms of installations, projections, expanded cinema. So in that sense, it's we have a lot of people getting coming to Uruguay and staying and then developing a different kind of project later on.
Está bueno. Sí, yo me he
Great.
topado por ahí
Yes. Yes, I
con
have run
Silvana.
into
Silvana, no me acuerdo
Silvana.
el nombre,
I can't remember
Camor,
the
¿puede
last
ser?
name.
Que por
Camor was the
ahí
last name?
da clases
Teaching.
en,
Yes.
claro, da clases en
Transit.
una universidad, no me
She
acuerdo
teaches at a
cuál.
university. I don't remember
Antón
which.
también,
Anton, too.
que
Yes.
también estuvo con ustedes
He
aprendiendo
was
cosas y bueno, él
with
tiene como
you
su mini labo en su
learning.
casa
They have the
y
mini
así
lab
debe haber
at home,
algunos
and it's
otros por ahí
probably some
que se
others
armaron
that put
su
together
labo casero, ¿no?
their homemade lab. Many, many, many. Before those you named, there's many more colleagues that have developed other kinds of activities, even if different points of the country. And that's important. And that also happens that those people travel and contribute. That's what
Claro.
is
Y
valuable.
bueno, ahora que está
Yes, and now that
Rodrigo,
we have
todos
Rodrigo
los lunes llamando a Kodak
every
y se vuelve
Monday
distribuidor,
calling
bueno, a lo
Kodak, if he
mejor pueden
becomes a
en Chuy
distributor, maybe you can
encontrarse ahí en
enjoy
la frontera
meet
y
in the
pasarse
border
las películas
uh, and switch
en un
movies
maletín
in a
undercover.
briefcase,
¿Y
undercover
qué tal?
briefcase or suitcase. That would be fantastic to be able to have an exchange between Brazil and Uruguay. Well, these people I was talking to you about Cine de Fronteras, the border cinema, they bought analogical equipment. And those are the things that I think are significant. To do that archaeological work and to value technological
Es
supports, I believe is
fundamental,
very,
sí.
very important. Those
Y volver a
supports, I
los
mean.
trueques, ¿no? A lo mejor
And back to
pueden ir ahí los
exchanging
chicos de
things and
Laberinto con película y
guys from the
ustedes le
Laberinto
dejan
with
usar
films,
sus
and
máquinas que son
you
muy
let them
lindas, la
use
copiadora y todo eso,
your
que está
units, your
buenísimo.
machinery, the copier. Of course, the invitation is out there. You know, Montevideo is your place for to explore, research, share, and program. Of course, that has to do with this network we were
Claro.
talking about and this experience we had in Quilmes in Buenos Aires at this school was fantastic. Fantastic. It gathered a lot of Latin American artists in an educational horizontal experience,
Buenísimo.
and many things were born there. A lot of collaborative and participative
Buenísimo. Y bueno,
experiences.
ahora
And
los chicos
now
de
the
Laberinto,
guys
me gustaría
from the
que me
Laberinto,
cuenten
please tell
de
me,
todos esos nodos que
from
hay
all
en
those
Brasil, de
novels you
gente
have in
trabajando con
Brazil,
el
of people
analógico. Ya
working
hablamos
with
un poco
analogical. We
de lo que
talked
pasa en
about what
Curitiba y
happens in
Curtaoito,
Curitiba and
pero hay
Curitiba
un
and
montón de gente
Curtaoito.
más. También hablamos de Laila
There's a
Foster,
lot
que
of
está
people.
trabajando en
We mentioned
Brasilia y
Isla
armando algo
Foster
nuevo. Cuéntenme
working
qué
in
otros
Brasilia.
lugares
What
están.
other
Yo puedo
places?
pensar también en
I
Florianópolis.
can think of Florianopolis,
Cuéntenme
maybe.
más.
What other places? Here we try and have to understand who's doing what. And Claudia
Hay
Garfa,
Super Duo Strangloscope.
Super Duo Strangle Scope. I was
Tienen
at
un
her
pequeño
place,
labcito
her
en su
lab. They
casa
have a
muy lindo,
small
sí.
lab. It's very nice. Yes, it's very nice. Everything is beautiful.
Ujú.
They come to a project here. They're coming soon
Qué
for a
bueno.
project. And they're the
Ujú.
they have a lot of experience. They can teach us a lot. So we're very much
Sí,
depending on what they do, observing what they do, and they organize
sí, sí.
their exhibit there too. And there in
Sí.
Curitiba, Ligia Teixeira and Francisco Russo started in Monteverde Productions, a producing company that came out of a
Ujú.
single shot workshop in Curitiba. They started with research,
Sí,
tried to do expanded cinema. Now they have a small tank, 15 meter. I mean,
sí.
quite good. And there was I was in February there before
Ufa.
pandemic with a workshop. It was very nice. They had 10 students, I think, and revealed in 2 days in 2 sets, and it came out very good movies. So I think there is
Bien.
something starting there. Super
Oh,
Lab
lo voy a
Solar is
anotar.
the name. Let me write it down. In Brasilia, we have this lab, O Barco Studio. I think it's the branch out of the Pasaje from the El Cometa Destructor in Brazil. In Rio, we have Tetsuya
Bueno, Gris
in this
Miranda
talk.
también, que es
Chris
como la
Miranda,
súper
super
entusiasta de toda la vida,
enthusiast
¿no? Del fílmico.
forever. Yes, she reveals at home,
Sí,
and she does that. They have a magical lab, trying new things in Rio at home too. And there's other people. The collab, like a network.
Ok,
Recife, Sao Paulo, as Kaká, Amanda Bersa, and other people that did the workshop, the instructors
ok.
workshop. Other years, Kaká is always moving around, so they're nomads, but they have a 30 and a 15 tanks. They have a 30
O
tank
sea que
here.
se
It's
están
just the two
moviendo
of
por
us, I
todos
think. So
lados
they're
con sus
moving
tanques.
about with their tanks. I think so.
Es mi
Very
sueño. Yo quiero
interesting.
una
That's
combi
my
con mis
dream. I
tanques.
want I want a truck with my tanks to move about. So their focus is of people revealing Achiago and
En
Fortaleza.
Fortaleza, ok.
He was in Cuba and we met Guillermo probably.
Sí.
Yes, yes, adorable. So we're always talking with Tiago as well. That and Nicolas Cañedo, but in Europe, but always in goes back and forth between Rio and Europe. They do something with Tetsui. There are small groups, uh, or duos, and
¿No hay
that's
nadie en el
fantastic.
nordeste?
No one in the northeast. Recife,
En Recife. Sí.
that collab. The name of the house is a Mau Mau. It's a cultural
Sí.
collective, wider one, but they have the spaces with their baths, and they turn them. They
Bañeiro
use
Lab
them
es
when
un
they
gran
have.
nombre de laboratorio, ¿no?
Bañeiro Lab is a great name for that lab, right? Yes, we can switch from laberinto to bañeiro, baño, bathroom. This guy called has a collective called Deslumbramiento, but reveals. But there's people who know each
Sí.
other. I cannot say exactly where, if they're fixed or not. They film and say, "Well, are we going to reveal? Well, where?" And that's what happens. Sao Paulo has the Laberinto, AGF, commercially too, but it's black and
Me han
white.
dicho que tiene la mala combinación de
Bad
ser caro
combination of doing
y no muy
expensive
bueno,
and not
¿no?
so good, I heard. Exactly. And there's an older guy called Roberto Busini. For he's great. He reveals everything, but does not have chemicals. Just black and white, then also only. Has
Claro,
always
esa es
revealed
como una
everything,
medio institución, ¿no?
like an
Porque antes de que
institution.
pasara
I
todo
mean,
esto, él
before all
estaba
of this
revelando en
happening,
su
he was
casa, como
revealing at
que
home.
uno escuchaba ya del famoso Bolsini que
Bolsini
uno iba
was
a la
a
casa
well-known
y
name, and you went
estaba
to
ahí,
his
le
place, and it
tocaba
was
todo.
revealing. He lives out on the road and has a place. I mean, he's fantastic. He has a lot of. One day we spent 7 hours on a phone call. We were both exhausted, but the information I got from that talk was fantastic, and he's awesome. He knows a lot. He has another knowledge, but he doesn't go
Claro,
out and says, "Hey, I don't care. I'm not
claro.
going to the city of São Paulo. If you want, you can come to
Es
my
el
place."
clásico señor ermitaño que sabe mucho, pero
Classical
que tienes que ir
hermitage,
a
right? He
verlo a la
knows a
casa a hacer
lot,
la
but you have
excursión
to
y
go
es
tour
muy emocionante.
on a tour to his house. He does everything, camera, lumiere, etc. And the chemical he does. He has great knowledge, but I mean, I'm not saying scientific, but the work, the job. I did not know he knew this much. I was very much surprised. You have to do residency with him.
No sé, es muy ermitaño, ¿eh? Yo creo
It's
que ya
quite a
después de
hermit.
media hora ya te va
After
a
30
sacar
minutes,
a
he's gonna
patadas de su
kick you
casa.
out of the house. A tent
Jardín.
outside and do the experience, have the experience for the systematization. That info needs to be gathered and recovered, actually. I mean, that he takes all that info with him. What happened with Fucho Musiteli here, he was a collaborator for our lab, enormous in that sense. So he helped us to put up, to set up this machinery and have it on and doing exercises and perfecting it. Today, we even have a chance of residencies as an exchange, virtual exchange. Virtual residencies we organized during the pandemic with colleagues was very enriching. People from Spain, Argentina, we generate a network where information starts circulating, and that promotes circulation of contents and in consumables as well, which we lack sometimes. We have no access and they're hard to
Exacto.
get, these
Bueno, y
consumables.
ahora,
And
pues ya
now
perfilando un poco hacia el final de la
we are
charla,
getting towards the end
no
of the
sé si
talk. I
quieran
don't know
como
if you want
de los chicos de
from the
Laberinto,
guys
como
from the
tratar
Laberinto to try and
de cerrar como con
close
algo
with
que,
something
no sé, como algún deseo, como si le pidieran
you want, a wish, a desire, if you were asking
como si
as if you were,
tuvieran
as if you had,
alguna, iba a decir un deseo, pero más bien como
I was
cuál
going to
es
say
la meta siguiente
desire,
del
but
laboratorio, además
I'm changing it for
de ser
goal,
autosuficientes
objective.
con el
And besides
fílmico y
being self-sufficient with
con los
filmic
químicos y todo
and
eso, que
the
es pues lo más
chemicals,
complicado.
the most complicated
¿Cuál
thing,
sería
what would be
el siguiente paso
the
para el
next step
laboratorio
for the lab?
y qué particularidad
And
creen
what
que
peculiarities do
tiene
you
el
think
trabajo de
the
ustedes
work
con
you do
todos
has
esos
with all
modelos que
those
siempre miramos
models we
de
always
laboratorios independientes
see in independent labs
de europeos o
in Europe
norteamericanos, ¿no?
or
O sea,
North America?
yo puedo decir que
I can say
el
that
más evidente y el
the
más
most
obvio es
evident and
que
obvious is
pues
that
resistimos a
we
todo y estamos
resist
acostumbrados a las
everything.
crisis y no hay plata del Estado ni
You're
de
used
ningún
to
lado,
crisis, we're
pero
used to
no
not
sé, a lo
having
mejor cada uno
money,
de
neither
ustedes
from the state or
quiere
anywhere
hacer un
else.
cierre
Maybe you want to say something for the
eh,
closure
con ese
of this
tema.
talk with this topic. This year, because of the pandemic, we were quite bored and trying to discover what to do. And this of the next step we started because of the
Sí,
continuous research. We started studying with
ok.
organic revealers a lot because here in Brazil we do not have how to discard
Sí,
chemicals in a
sí.
gentle
Ujú.
way towards the in terms of nature, and that is a huge problem here in Brazil. We started studying. We have revealing with cachaça, and we reveal with marijuana as well, and they were very good.
No
It's
se
very
sabe si queda
powerful.
bueno o si ustedes creen que queda bueno porque
We don't know
también
if it's
están
actually good or you think it's actually good because of it. It's a bit
experimento
of
con la
both.
percepción.
It has to do with perception, right? Well, I think that the next step we're starting to try and do emotion for negative, black and white,
Ok.
to do it in an artisan fashion. We have the money, we have the necessary chemicals, but we have to experiment some time now to refine the formula. The formula we're working on, if we can create a film of Azodes, we need to study. An initial process for photographic film, we need to evolve it in the following years for something functional for photography and something functional for cinema. It takes years. We're crazy, I think. We desire to have control of all the processes with all its aspects because the thing is, it's a complicated scenario for Latin America. They have no interest in us. It's important to send messages. Hey, we're here, we're producing, but I have no much hope that we could get something out of that because it's a policy. We exist for the States and for Europe. We do not exist for the third world. So, if it were possible, we try, whenever possible, we try to have control as much as we can on processes so we can have an alternative.
Claro,
If not, the alternative is nothing.
claro,
With the
totalmente.
large
Hay
companies,
la
yes,
autosuficiencia es como
self-sufficiency
la clave, ¿no?
is the
Ahí
key, right?
nuestro
Right.
amigo
Our
Setuya, que le
friend
mandamos un
Setuya,
cariño,
we
escribió ahí,
said we say
se está
hi.
muriendo de risa con el
He's
macoñol.
laughing with the
Yo creo
macoñol,
que se está tomando el macoñol.
the one used for revealing in this. I would like to add
Sí,
something.
claro.
We're having those experiences. It's not just the two of us. No one's saying you do this and you do that. Each one does what they want, and we know that each has their own peculiarity. So this
Ujú.
one devotes more time to research on that. He did revealing with guarana, mate, coffee. He's
Ujú.
experimenting. I'm in this thing with Kodak, but also trying here to do next year single
Sí,
age workshop for next year. I'm trying to patch at Super 8
ok.
within it and have a workshop, maybe a small um, thing for the format. Double H2. We're trying some things here too. Ivan is there. On the scanner, we're trying to do it with Arduino and all those things. We managed to get a lot of tests, but we still need the traction of the film and adjustments. I think that for 2021 we'll have it.
Claro,
All of us are in different things, but when you come out to light is it's fantastic. Say, hey, I managed to reveal with this or that. So those are things all contributing. We're not physically together, but
contribuye con su especialidad, ¿no? Con su
with your
parte.
speciality,
Muy
right?
buena.
Too,
Ahí,
yes. Yeah, all that for something bigger.
claro.
Connecting people. That's our north. And to maintain the format alive. Connecting people, I believe, is our biggest condition there.
Buenísimo.
I think that in that, our community films experience in Brazil and the one abroad, like the one we did with Guillermo in Quilmes. So we have that included, this community
Ujú.
cinema, the workshops, and we bring to analogical. Hey, it's possible to do this, and it's the only way to do it
Claro,
that's cheaper. We do it together. We do films together. That's why the single shot and the workshop we did, uh,
sí,
intervention in films. It has 75 people from all over Brazil attending it. So that connection generates new things.
claro, claro. Y si hay más gente
And there's
conectada,
more people connected,
tienes
the
como
better.
más áreas de especialidad, ¿no? Acá
More
tienes al
specialties
hijo no
covered. Here have
reconocido
the
del
unrecognized
general
child
Tregan y bueno,
from General
también después
Tregan,
quizás se
and
anote a alguien
maybe
más que la tenga más
someone
clara
else
con
that knows
cuestiones
more
mecánicas para
with the
ayudarlos a
mechanical
terminar el
aspect to
scan,
help
que es
you
el otro paso que les
finish with the
falta.
scan. That's
Y
the
así
next
se va
step you need
sumando
to
gente
do, and
que
then
les
you
ayuda a
keep adding
completar
people that
el
help you
circuito, ¿no? Eso es
complete the
fundamental.
thing.
Y bueno, ojalá estas charlas
Hope this
acá en
talks
la BIM pues
here
ayuden
in the
también
BIM help
a que más gente se anote
more people
con
attend
sus nodos de experiencia.
your experience
Y
nodes.
bueno, Guillermo, ¿quieres
Guillermo,
contarnos
would you like to tell us
en qué está el futuro próximo
what's
de
the near
FAC? Y si quieres
future
darnos un
for the
cierrecito antes
lab?
de las preguntas.
And so you give us a closing remarks before the questions. The idea is to continue, as you
Casi no te
know.
escucho, Guillermo.
The proposal the lab has is just like it started, maybe with the border to manage to do it, to continue with Arrayanes, with this collective called Border Cinema, Cine de Frontera, extended to other sectors. We have had activities with the training centers, and that generates a desire for the materialness of the movies, of films used as an education tool. So each facilitator, educational culture manager gets a baggage from these tools to take and to carry out their contents. That's the role the lab has had since the beginning, and in an exchange of knowledge, we try to go deeper. If people do films or do it in the audiovisual field, what matters is that they use the tool as a facilitator of content, a facilitator of ideas that crystallize in images. So, in that sense, for us, it's also important to write and systematize experiences. For instance, Montevideo Cine Experimental, the experimental cinema in Montevideo, wants to generate that thoughtful and criticism experience in this area. And on the other hand, it is if the system does not collaborate with us, let's ask throughout the network and throughout the colleagues, the ones to survive and self-finance our projects. So I believe that experience Rodrigo told that in other networks we have heard from other colleagues, they strengthen those exchanges, and from there having a film alternative material. They're using beat here, for instance. There's a girl from Maldonado who's revealing with beat. Ernesto's working with sherba, with wheat from the mate. We have done it with coffee, we've done it with wine. Alternative experiences, I believe that is what today maintain each space alive. And the fact of having emulsions, I think it's a great idea, Rodrigo, to produce your own and go deeper and keep doing archaeology, because we have some films keep showing up that are not burned. And what happens if we burn them? If we reveal them with alternative processes? And so to assist this resource economy that makes this realization possible. So from our space, we want to welcome everyone who wants to come and collaborate in the network, and collaborate with the network as much as we can. That's our mission too. We will turn 15. We're turning 15 years old in these exchanges. So we want to continue expanding that thought.
Buenísimo. Sí,
Great.
súper interesante esto de las emulsiones y además
This emulsion thing was very interesting.
como buscar formas, ya que
Try
están súper
and
vecinos ustedes por
look for
ahí,
ways, since you're neighbors,
como decía Guillermo, probar
as Guillermo was saying,
con otras
try with
películas, ¿no?
other
Con
films,
o
or
algunas otras
what
emulsiones
other
y salirse
emotions,
de
and
lo que
get out
parecería como la única vía
of
de Kodak, ¿no?
the only
No sé si
possibility
hay por ahí
Kodak
alguien que quiera
might seem to be.
preguntar.
If there are any questions
No
out
sé
in
si
the
preguntan
audience,
por el chat o cómo es. Sí, ¿no? Ahí está en el chat veo todos los
I see
contactos
all the
para
contacts in the
quien
chat
quiera
box if you want to ask
comunicarse con los chicos del laberinto
or
y
talk to the people
también
from Laberinto, and I
el de
see the
fax.
data from Guillermo as well.
Quieren preguntar por el chat o si no, también
If
acá
you
me
want, you
hablan de
can
la nave
ask
nodriza que les
questions.
pueden activar el micrófono.
If you
Si
can,
alguno se
if you
anima a
want, you can
preguntarle
ask
algo.
questions through the chat box, or I'm being
¿Mm?
told by the mothership
En mis
here on
tiempos se
my
levantaba la
phone,
mano, pero ahora no.
you
Hay una
can, they
manita
will open
virtual,
up
¿no?
the microphone. In the good old days, you would just raise your hands, right? Can you hear me?
Sí.
Yes.
Ajá.
Hello, everyone.
Hola.
I wanted to ask Guillermo if the lab, this lab, you mentioned in the duty-free zone, it was productions, films revealed or material, copying material for cinema. What was produced there, it was industrial material, basically, spot films, and revealed there in that zone. Synergia, Synergy was the name of the project. I visited with Musitelli, but I didn't have, I took some roles from a colleague from Spain there to reveal, but that was it. I knew it was transit. I don't know if I'm answering the question. Yes, thank you very much.
Ay, no sé quién preguntó. Fue una voz
There was a voice there that asked a question.
anónima. Ay, Manu, aloha.
Manu from Arcoiris.
Qué irreconocible. Bueno,
I
genial.
did not recognize your
Hay alguien
voice.
por ahí que también creo que nadie más, ¿no?
No more questions. Waiting for a possible question, let me use this time to remind you that this year where we cannot meet and have our exhibits and projections at the BIM, from BIM we produced a great collective work called Mirarnos a los ojos, volverá, is looking each other in the eyes back to. That's the strong part of the content in terms of creation. Let me include this in the chat box if you haven't yet seen them. Let me give you the link there so you can submerge yourselves in this ocean. More than 200, 250 videos that we have received from artists from all over the world. And besides the videos, everything is gathered in this project. The platform has a proposal of its own as an experience for spectators that come in. So I invite you to visit Looking Each Other in the Eyes Back to, the title of this project. And let me remind you as well that this Independent Labs meetings, besides it has several programs attached. And if you're interested, the program corresponding to this meeting, this current meeting, here's the link where you can find the Laberinto info. At the bottom, you will be able to access the program our friends from Laberinto gave us.
Buenísimo. Y también
Fantastic.
recordarles
And
que hoy tenemos
remember that
otra
we
charla
have
con
another talk
Elena Pardo de
with
LEC, el
Elena Pardo from
Laboratorio
LEC,
de
the
México, y con Kino
Mexican
Lab,
Lab, and
Enrico
Kino Lab,
Mandirola
Enrico
de
Mandirola
Bogotá,
from
Colombia.
Bogotá, Colombia.
Y esto va a ser
And this will
el
be
horario, ya les digo exactamente, a
at
las
6 p.m.
18 horas de Buenos Aires.
Buenos
Pero
Aires
estaba viendo
time.
el horario de de México
For Mexico
y Colombia
and
parece que son
Colombia,
las
I think it's
16 horas. Exacto.
4 p.m.
Antes de que les cambien el horario,
Before
llevamos 2. Perfecto. Entonces
you
ahí
change
vamos
the
a estar
schedule,
hablando de
we
la
get 2
movida
in.
de
So
aquel
we'll
lado
talk about
que está muy lejos
what's
geográficamente,
happening
pero
there
está muy
in that
cerca
part of the
de lo
world
que
that's far
venimos
away from
hablando
us, but very near of what we've been
de lo que
talking so
ocurre
far,
en
of what
Brasil y
happens in
Uruguay. Y
Brazil and
bueno,
Uruguay. And
creo que
I think that
nadie preguntó más nada, ¿no?
no more questions, right? There's
Ah,
another question for Guillermo. There's no way that in Uruguay get it without taxes. It's not a question, it's just a
ah,
comment. Similar to what happens to books. Consider it a culture fact. It's just a comment for
sí,
Guillermo.
no sé cómo será en Uruguay,
I don't know
pero
what
bueno,
happens
por lo
in
menos
Uruguay, but
en
in at least in
Argentina
Argentina,
los libros pasa así, se
books
pueden meter sin impuestos, pero la
you
película
can have
y
it
los químicos
without
son
taxes,
pasa
but
totalmente diferente. Por
films
más
and
que sea
chemicals
algo
is completely
artístico,
different, even if it's artistic.
no se libera.
We don't have a law to cover for this type of consumables. So in that sense, we need to read the small print, see where the crack is, and get through it. So what we did for our colleagues and
Ujú.
for everybody in general, the lab is not the only place where you use that. So in that sense, I believe that it's good to start sharing that information that can be generated in this change of administration we have had, and see in the small print you have something that we can use so we can import. For now, the fast and most efficient way is the colleagues traveling, and hopefully traffic comes back and borders
Bien.
are opened from the lab, our lab, and our colleagues that support the project, that participate in the project. I'm just part of I'm a spokesman, and great hug to all of you. We hope to have you here soon. Our doors are always open, and we will keep sharing. That's our desire. A pleasure to have participated in this talk. Thank you, Azucena. Again, to Andres, Gabriela, Rodrigo, Vini, for this exchange. I believe it's nurturing for all of us, and it expands the resistance before the
Muchísimas gracias.
analogical blackout we're
Espero
suffering.
que ustedes se
I hope
encuentren ahí en Chuy para hacer
you
sus intercambios. Yo a
find
Guillermo lo toparé
each other
en
in
el
Chewy. I will
Buquebús y
see
a Rodrigo ahí
Guillermo
en la
in the
Triple
Buquebus
Frontera.
ship
Y
and
bueno,
Rodrigo
nos
in
vemos
the
en
triple
una
from
hora
border.
para
We'll meet
ser
in an
parte
hour
de la
to be
próxima
part of the
mesa
next
y
talk,
muchísimas gracias
the
por su
round table,
tiempo y
and
toda
thank
la
you for your
data
time and
y
all the
por toda la
data you
generosidad.
provided
Les
and your
mando muchos
generosity.
besos y abrazos.
Big kiss. See you
¡Mua, mua,
soon.
mua, mua, mua!
Thank you. Kiss, kiss.
Adiós.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos por participar.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Rodrigo, Vini,
¿Cómo está Guillermo?
Guillermo,
Muchas gracias.
Azucena. Thank you very
Hasta la
much.
próxima.
See you next
Chao,
time.
Chulis. Gracias a todos los que
Bye. Thank
participaron
you
de
all for
hoy
the participants as well.